Do you know in your core that there's really so much more to you, and you could achieve so much more if you could just finally get yourself to do what you know you should be doing? Or are you constantly feeling drained, not because you are super productive, but because you have 20 tabs open in your mind, constantly running in the background, which you know you should close but cannot find the motivation to do? Procrastination is something we all know too well, and it is something we know stands in the way of a better, more successful and more fulfilling life and existence. And today I will share the mindset and methods that help me and my clients beat this beast. Let's get into it. You might think the solution to procrastination is just brute force discipline. You know, telling yourself you're a lazy bugger and you just need to get the hell over yourself and do it. Or maybe you think that once you are motivated or feel like it, you will tackle it and then it will just flow easily. Or you think that you need more time and that you are just too busy to focus on that right now. And you know, once life settles down a little, you will be in the right headspace to really dig in. Well, you are watching this video because none of that really ever works long term. Brute force discipline might work, but if you have been a serial procrastinator or if it is something you've been struggling with, your belief about yourself is probably that you don't have that much discipline, and because you don't have a lot of evidence in your life of being able to push yourself to do it, it probably means you have very little confidence in your self-discipline. So essentially that is like trying to scoop water from a dry well. Then another solution would be to wait for the moment when you feel motivated or inspired or in the mood for it. Let me save you some time. If you don't feel like it now, you probably won't feel like it later either. So let go of that hope or illusion. It's a waste of time and very unreliable because you are basically giving up complete control and have no guarantee of when and if that spark of motivation and energy will come. A last solution might be to think that you will do it once you have more time. And again, you probably won't. Most people, myself included, are highly efficient at filling their time with activities that don't really add value, but that are easy to do. And again, the same reason that we don't have time now will still be there, or just in a different format in the future too. Remember, no matter where we go, we always take ourselves with us. As you'll see next, all these solutions that I have just mentioned don't work because they don't address the real cause of procrastination. To find a solution to any problem, the first step is always to understand the cause of the problem, and procrastination is not the cause, it's the symptom. I did a poll on multiple platforms of what the community thinks causes procrastination, and the top 3 answers were overwhelm, fear, and perfectionism. And I agree with those answers. That is consistent with what I've seen with myself and with my clients as well. So when looking at these answers, it becomes obvious why our usual attempts at fixing procrastination don't work. Because we are trying to fix the effect and not the cause. Telling yourself you need to be disciplined is not going to help you if you're already feeling overwhelmed. It doesn't answer the reason why you feel overwhelmed, and trying to force yourself to just do it will in fact make you stress and feel overwhelmed even more. If you are feeling fear or self-doubt because you don't believe you have enough knowledge or skills to properly complete a task, you can wait until the end of time for motivation to show up, and trust me, it never will. In fact, the effect of self-doubt and fear is demotivation, so you can be certain that it's not going to come to you. It's like being too tired to read, but then keeping yourself awake in the hopes that you'll be less tired the longer you stay awake. The point is, You really want to understand what is causing you to procrastinate, because then you can go about finding a different mindset or method that speaks directly to that cause. Now, to find that, you can just ask yourself these questions. What is making me feel overwhelmed? If that is difficult to answer, ask yourself, what needs to happen in order for me to not feel overwhelmed anymore? Maybe it's as simple as prioritizing or just doing proper time scheduling. Maybe it means that you have to start removing things from your life that are just dead weight. You know, we only have so many hours in a day, so many productive hours in a day, and sometimes we just load them with a bunch of crap. And it's really such a simple solution just to go and see what is really important in your life, what you need to focus on, and to clear your schedule and structure it properly. Another thing you can ask when it is grounded in fear is, what are you afraid will happen if you don't succeed at the task? So whatever the answer is, then you know what you have to work on. For example, if it is fear of embarrassing yourself, you can ask experienced people to vet your work, or just do more research for yourself until you feel more confident. Or if it's about embarrassment, you can reframe that fear and just see it as a natural part of growth that you have to go through in order to learn and get better. So if you embarrass yourself this time, you learn from it and you can implement whatever you've learned the next time around. If you are afraid of the consequences if you don't do something well, ask for help. Or if there is none, think of a contingency plan. So in essence, you ask yourself, what is the worst that can happen? And then make a plan for that event. So this is just to put your mind at ease, and then you can tell yourself, well, I'm just going to do my best, and whatever the outcome is, I will deal with it after. Remember, most of the time, even if something goes really bad, you can still adjust or fix it afterward. Whatever happens, life always goes on, so don't put so much pressure on yourself. Now, for both overwhelm and fear, you might discover you just really don't have the necessary skills or support, and then you can identify exactly what you need to do to acquire that to solve your problem. So you're taking your focus from avoidance to action. When it comes to perfectionism, you can ask yourself, what does perfection even look like? Perfectionism is such an illusion because it completely depends on who you are asking. So start by defining exactly what perfection looks like for you, because then at least you have an actual measurable goal to work towards. But honestly, ideally you want to check out the whole concept of perfection and rather start focusing on continuous progress. If you focus on just getting better in small steps, you might even surpass your own perfection standard. I did a whole episode on the perfection trap. It is episode number 9, which you can find somewhere here at the top of the screen, and I'll also link it in the description down below. My point is, understanding what the cause of your procrastination is the first and most important step. This gives you the control to find the right mindset, method, and focus. Now, what mindset and methods could you try? Well, basically anything that gives you a sense of control. I mean, if you think about it, all the causes of procrastination has something to do with feeling out of control. If you feel overwhelmed, you feel out of control. If you feel self-doubt and fear, you feel out of control. When you feel everything needs to be perfect, but you doubt that you will be able to achieve that perfection, again, you feel out of control. So whatever method you use needs to give you a sense of control. Obvious, right? Well, of course, I'm going to give you a few suggestions of what has worked for me and my clients. Focus on the next step, not the goal. This one is so important and so helpful. Overwhelm, fear, and the perfection trap all come from looking at this far away end goal. And the bigger the outcome, the further we feel away from it, and the more fearful and overwhelmed and doubtful we become that we will be able to make it. So know what the goal is, and then ask yourself, what is the first small step? And then do that step. Then, what is the next step? And do that step. Sounds simple, but this helps you build confidence and momentum, and it facilitates focus. To give you an example, when I go running, I have this rule that I have to start at my gate and finish at my gate, and I'm not allowed to walk in between, even if that means I have to jog really slowly. Now, some days are just really hard, and if you feel like you're about to pass out, it's hard if there are another 2 kilometers left. Now, the trick I found that you have to do then is to set very small targets. So, for example, I look at a driveway 100 meters ahead, and then I say to myself, okay, all I have to do is to get to that driveway. Once I reach that, then I'm allowed to walk. Then, when I get to the driveway, I set another target 100 meters from me, and again I tell myself, okay, I just have to reach that point, and once I do, I can start walking. And I continue to do that until I end up in front of my gate again, having run all the way. The reason this works is because you are giving yourself achievable targets. Your brain thinks, hey, I can do that, and then it pushes through. To just expand on that example, if you want to run a marathon and you can't even do 50 meters, and you think about the fact that you have to run 40 kilometers, you're going to go like, hell no, I'd rather take the couch. But if you say, my next goal is only to run 100 meters, and once I've done 100, I'm going to run 200. Once I've done 200, I'm going to run 300. All of a sudden, it feels really manageable, and if you continue like that, you will end up at 40 kilometers someday. So the goal remains the same, getting there remains the same, you just make it achievable for your mind, which in turn stops procrastination because you feel able and capable to do it. And I do exactly the same in any other area of my life. If I want to have 100 coaching clients, I start by getting 1. If I want 1 million YouTube subscribers, I focus on just getting the next 5. This way, I get a lot of positive feedback from the process, and it builds confidence, momentum, and energy. Sustainable energy. Expect and accept resistance and/or confusion. So know that you won't immediately have an overview, and be okay with that. If you are doing something that is challenging or vast, you won't have the perfect structure from the get-go. Know that the confusion and disorientation is part of the process. For example, when I start writing the scripts for my videos, I just write down a bunch of thoughts without any structure, and then over time I bring them all together. If I felt like I needed to have everything under perfect control from the get-go, I wouldn't produce one video. So if a task is really vast and you don't have a clear structure and you don't know where to begin, just start, write down whatever it is that you have in your mind, and then tell yourself this initial overwhelm is just part of the normal process, just keep going, and it will all become clear over time. I've really found this to be true for anything, and it kind of just breaks this massive expectation that everything has to be perfect. Because the more we lower our expectations, the easier it is to start, because it doesn't feel so overwhelming. Good old scheduling. I know it seems obvious, but do you really do it? Schedule your day or your week and make it really easy for yourself to just go into robot mode and take action. I have definitely noticed that if I start my day with this massive mental list of what needs to be done, but I didn't plan it into my day, I'm like a deer in headlights and I end up doing nothing. And I know scheduling can be super boring, but it doesn't have to be complicated. Just make a list of your priorities and decide how much time you will have to spend on it during the day, and tackle the list without thinking. This really just helps to remove the confusion and stress of that headless chicken syndrome, where you're running around not knowing where to start. And it will give you the peace and calm that comes with a structured plan. I made an in-depth video on conquering your to-do list. It is episode number 37, and again, you can find it somewhere in the corner, and I'll link it in the description below. To help me stay focused and really push through, I use the Pomodoro technique. Now, there's plenty of information on that all over YouTube and the internet, so I'm not going to go into depth here. A quick search will give you a breakdown of this very useful technique. Basically, what it comes down to is that you just divide your tasks into smaller segments and then you time yourself in those focus periods. Just do a quick search and you'll have that technique down in 3 minutes. It has worked wonders for me and for my clients. And this technique is especially useful when it comes to mundane and boring tasks that you really don't have a lot of interest in, or when it comes to bigger tasks that you can't finish in one sitting. Define exactly what perfection looks like for you. Again, like I said before. When perfectionism is holding you up, start by defining what perfection actually is, because then at least you have a clear goal. The problem with perfectionism is that it is very subjective. It will differ from person to person, and I will even put my bets in that you don't really know what it even looks like for you. Perfectionism is an honorable excuse. It sounds fancy, but it's an excuse nonetheless. It is a way of making yourself feel good about the fact that you are afraid. Don't succumb to it. Tackle it in a constructive way. So turn your perfect outcome into a specific goal and then break the journey down into small tasks and steps. Making the goal clear does not give you the convenience of hiding behind the illusion of perfection. In this process, you are making the intangible tangible, which essentially means you are taking back control and giving yourself something very real to work toward. And then the beauty of that is whether you reach that perfection really becomes irrelevant because your focus is on the next step or the steps toward perfection and not the end goal itself. I did a full episode on my Progress to Extraordinary model, which is episode number 9. I think it was called The Perfection Trap. And again, you can find it on screen and in the description below. The last, and probably one of the most effective methods, is delayed gratification. This is one of the most effective methods because you are working for a reward. So, super easy. What this entails is you just delay whatever you wanted to procrastinate with by working on what you have been avoiding for 5 minutes. So, for example, you need to do a report, but it's just the most boring thing you can think of right now, and you would rather just quickly go and make a cup of coffee first. Now, use the coffee as your reward for working 5 minutes first. So you set your timer and tell yourself, I can get my coffee after 5 minutes of work. Meaning, you don't give yourself the treat first, you reward yourself after you have worked for it. This is so much more satisfying anyway. I even use this with exercise. I tell myself that 5 minutes of yoga is better than no yoga, so before I slouch down on the couch, I'm just going to do 5 minutes. And my reward will then be an episode of 2.5 Men. Now, as you might guess, you clever cookie, what usually happens then is you end up working longer anyway, because you just had to overcome that initial inertia. It's a really great technique to remember in any situation. I also do it when I have a book on my bedside table waiting to be read, but TikTok just feels like a lot less effort in that moment. Then I tell myself, after 5 minutes of reading, I'm allowed to go down the mindless rabbit hole of funny videos. But what ends up happening 98% of the time is I continue to read way beyond 5 minutes anyway. The beauty of this is, even if you really just do 5 minutes, you still have some kind of success and you have broken the ice, and it will be less daunting to go back to the task in the future. So, in a nutshell, procrastination is a symptom of an underlying emotion, which is usually some form of fear. Once you pin down exactly what the cause is, you can go about fixing that specific cause. You do that by shifting your mindset and using effective methods that give you back your control. If you can overcome procrastination, you will finally be able to step into the ultimate version of yourself. And by sharing your experiences, you will uplift a whole community around you too. So please give it a go and share it with us. Thank you for spending your time here. I always love getting together with people in a meaningful way. And by listening to this episode, you have already taken a big step in moving yourself toward great personal growth and success. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, and always live a self-powered life. I'll catch you again in the next one. Bye!